This is Capital Games. I'm the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero. We got some news on Wednesday, and the news basically is that there are huge layoffs that are coming down from Microsoft. Microsoft on Wednesday announced that they are laying off 4.5% of their workforce for the U.S. technology company. That is around 10,000 people. The cuts are all across the entire company, but the ones we're going to focus on are in the game side, as there is some cuts in that area. According to Bloomberg, it looks like Bethesda Game Studios as well as 343 Industries were affected by the cuts. So was HoloLens and some engineering divisions as well when it comes down to it. And it's looking like with 343, a significant amount of cuts that were done in 343 were part of the narrative and campaign side of Halo Infinite. So, Zero, what are your thoughts of Microsoft laying off their staff in these key areas?
343 was definitely one that was more a matter of time, especially because of the fact that ever since Halo Infinite's release in November of 2021, or rather, I think the actual full release was in December, but they had like a soft beta launch around November. Halo Infinite just kind of fell flat like a dud, mostly because of the fact that the campaign was okay. It wasn't anything to write home about. Was the general opinion on just review sites and just video game communities and forums in general. But I think the really more egregious part on its failure was just the multiplayer. The multiplayer was just kind of stale. There was no Forge mode to build your own maps and game modes and share them online and things like that. Things that were pretty much a hallmark of what made Halo one of the best console shooters on the face of the earth for a long while. So you have a top-tier brand under the Microsoft label coming out with a story that is okay. It's not great. It's not exceptional. It's just okay. And the multiplayer is just kind of a flat experience. It's not really a good way to start off the 9th console generation with something that's supposed to be one of your most valued brands on the Xbox side of the house, just kind of falling completely flat on its face. Stack on top of that the fact that the season pass, the first one, had stuck around for nearly almost an entire year, and you've got players who have gotten completely bored of just playing Halo Infinite because they're just like, okay, well, my season pass is done. What else is there to do? Oh, there's nothing else? Okay, well, I guess I'll move on. I think that's really one that just started to look like, okay, well, when are we going to hear word that, heads are going to roll at 343? And then, of course, around summertime, we got word that Bonnie Ross, who was heading 343 Industries, she was on her way out in November-ish, with the official PR reason cited as she had some family and possibly health stuff to attend to. So you had that, and they were saying that leadership was going to be shaken up at 343. And even after she ended up leaving in November, my mind was still going, okay, well, when are the bodies going to start to fall? Because they're going to have to do something to sort of cut down the loss of money and everything. Just when are we going to hear the news? And turns out that it was yesterday that we got the news of, oh yeah, we're just going to start laying off people now.
Your issues with Halo Infinite seem to be towards the multiplayer side, which it doesn't sound like there were a lot, if any, layoffs on the multiplayer side of 343 Industries and Halo Infinite on that. This was specifically on the single-player side, which, if we also remember, for the campaign, they also nixed a bunch of features such as online co-op, as well as, and couch co-op, I believe, correct, on that?
Yeah, I believe so, which I know a lot of people were hoping for just some sort of additional single-player content, and it looks like that has gone completely out the door now, and
Yeah.
I presume now they're going to try to refocus their efforts to make sure that they can maybe try to capitalize on the fact that there is renewed interest in Halo Infinite, and maybe try to work strictly on the multiplayer side with more engaging content, better season pass content, and things like that. And that's my assumption on why they just let go of the single player campaign division.
Also, it's also something that we should mention is that there have been constant reports that the leadership team is mostly at fault for this. And there's been enough reporting about this that I kind of have to agree, because if we look at everything, like the problem of Halo Infinite not getting any new content, or getting only new content once a year, I don't think it's a part of the employees' problem, it's leadership. If you're having an issue with getting multiplayer content, the thing to do next would then to be concentrating on single player content to get something out of there, so then people can spend money to engage with the product. And they just never did that. The leadership did not focus their energies on that at all. So with that said, a lot of people are pointing that out. I agree. Do you agree with that as well?
Yeah. I mean, just mentioned just a short while ago, just they seem to have renewed zeal on trying to capitalize on the multiplayer content. So with that being said, they're probably seeing it as, okay, looks like we've got some goodwill on the multiplayer side. Let's, focus on better season pass content. Let's make sure, people get on the game and log on and everything. Single player, as just an experience overall, most people aren't going to want to just log back on single player just to play it through again. At least in the eyes of the financial folks, they're seeing it as, yeah, single player is just a kind of a one and done experience. No one's really gonna pay into that. No one's really gonna care about DLC and things like that. And before anyone protests, I'm sure there's a huge contingent of people who would love more and more single player content for Halo Infinite. I have no doubt, but just the way the financial folks see it, single player isn't a recurring revenue stream, and you may as well just cut off the one team that was responsible for what they see as just not being able to continually bring in revenue, and then just go, okay, well, we're just going to focus on the multiplayer, and you guys on the multiplayer team, you need to fucking turn this game around and make sure that you've got money coming in.
I think the next thing we should talk about was specific with 343, because it sounds like Bethesda, although they laid off a bunch of people, it's not going to hurt them too much. This sounds like it's people who are working on Starfield that are finished, essentially. But I guess the question I would have in this is, what is the future of Halo at this point? There are some that believe Halo is essentially dead, and it's only going to be time where Halo Infinite is going to be shut down. And there are others who seem to think that maybe Halo will be given to another studio when the buyout happens from Activision Blizzard, and they will work with 343 to create a game that is worthy of the Halo name. What are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen to the Halo brand after this?
Ooh, that's a tough one, especially because just I don't know what team that they could go to unless Halo gets thrown to the Call of Duty team after the Activision Blizzard purchase. That's really the only immediate thing I can think of, just for them to go, okay, well, Activision Blizzard purchase is finished, cool, great. 343, you're now going to be under the supervision of the Call of Duty coalition of studios, and you're going to work with them to develop a sci-fi space shooter that has the esports feel of Call of Duty and potentially the ability to generate the buzz that Call of Duty has, but to a more sci-fi sort of direction and everything. That's where my gut reflex goes. There could be a possibility that, maybe Microsoft goes, hey, let's try to, maybe do something kind of a one-off spin-off of Halo, kind of like the Halo Wars strategy games that they've released in the past. Who knows? Maybe maybe Microsoft says, hey, 343, you need to work with, I don't know, Obsidian, and you're going to do a CRPG based in the Halo universe where it's got turn-based combat, tons of sweet lore, and all this other junk. So there's the sky's the limit at this point on who could potentially just end up taking over or cooperating with 343 Industries at this point. I think it's just too early to tell right now.
Are you trying to make Master Chief banging a Covenant spy lore in the universe by making a CRPG? Is that what you're trying to do? If you are, I'm not having it.
I was gonna say it'd be more like I don't know, maybe something like Jade Empire, but just with more sci-fi Halo beats.
I would love a new Jade Empire, but yeah. That's a game I do not think they're gonna go to Blizzard or Activision to make another game on Halo. I think they're gonna, when they get Activision Blizzard, they're gonna keep them where they're at, and then gradually in like 3 or 4 years start putting them into other franchises like, I don't know, Perfect Dark or something along those lines. I don't think that's gonna be there right away. I think if anybody, it's gonna be id Software, who will probably get that and make Halo a better game than it once was, because they are actually really good at first-person shooters, and they would probably be perfect to keep the feel of Halo and to make it an engaging shooter on top of that. 343 will probably be the multiplayer people on that, but they would have to be under some strict supervision in order to get it done, because I hate to say it, but 4 and 5 weren't too hot compared to 1, 2, and 3. They're good games, but they're nowhere near as good as the previous ones. The only thing that I can see them doing right now, if they concentrate on just doing multiplayer, they may be able to back themselves out of that rut and come back. Other than that, like if Halo Infinite tanks hard, I could see them absorbing 343 and just not using the Halo brand for a while. I can see that too. I can see them essentially saying, well, this is damaged goods, we're going to have to hold off on that for a little bit. Why don't we just make Perfect Dark that for this point in time? Or we'll redo Gears of War, or something along those lines. Or, God forbid, we'll do another IP. I don't know. A part of me thinks that that you're right, they're going to do a side story, but I think it'll be id, it won't be Activision. Or if Halo Infinite tanks, it's a damaged brand, and they'll just say, we're putting this on ice for a little while, and then we'll go elsewhere for our first-person shooters, which would be pretty bad in that case. But I don't see any other options at this point, because I don't know about you, but I think at this point, Halo is a brand that hasn't had a game that matches the legacy it has since Halo ODST or Halo Reach. I'll say Halo Reach. Reach was really good. I think that's the issue now with Halo, is that what it used to be under Bungie, it has not been that since, and it's damaged its brand, and now Microsoft is probably going to have to put that on ice until they find somebody who can bring it back. If they can't bring back Halo Infinite from the grave, I think is what's going to happen on this one.
I'd say that I would probably agree that if the multiplayer side of Halo Infinite doesn't improve, I can easily see some sort of major discussion of, okay, Halo brand is officially on ice. We're gonna just put it on ice until we can maybe develop some sort of revisit on the Halo branding or the Halo franchise in general. And, just that'll just be that. Kind of like what BioWare had to do with the Mass Effect games for a long while after the failure of Mass Effect Andromeda. They just ended up just having to throw the Mass Effect brand in the freezer and go, okay, no one liked Andromeda? Got it. So we're just going to put this on ice because we don't think we have a way to save the brand right now, and we don't really think it's a great idea to, go all in on Andromeda right now. So I think that's really going to be where the rubber hits the road at this point. That if 343 can pull the multiplayer stuff out of the rut that it's in, then maybe the Halo Infinite might get another redeeming chance, or the Halo brand in general might get a redeeming chance. Who knows, or who could say what could happen after that, because by that point, the Activision Blizzard buyout might be done, and then who knows, you might have a insane, crazy coalition between id Software and all the Call of Duty studios just sort of working on this mega collaboration project for the next Halo game, with something like the insane movement tech and just high-flying action that you've got in something like Doom Eternal, but just with all of the psychological bells and whistles of just season pass content and things like that that we see in the Call of Duty games. Who knows? Just sky's the limit at this point.
So let me ask you a question. A lot of people are commenting how Microsoft can lay off all these people yet still have enough money to purchase Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. Nice. What are your thoughts on that? And the commentary going around about Microsoft and how people feel uneasy about the fact that they're still trying to purchase that studio and yet laid off this many people.
That's going to be more a long-winded treatise on just how financial things go, things like stock options and things like that. Microsoft probably has some sort of fund where the money for that deal has likely been escrowed off, and it's just being held in escrow right now. I'm just kind of collecting dust until all the legal stuff settles. Just to clarify, I am not a financial expert, and this is not me providing financial advice. This is just purely my speculation, but my presumption...
Tell me all you know. Tell me all you know now.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's the last thing I need to make something sound like financial advice. But on the serious, I think what's going on with the 69 million that's being held off for the Activision Blizzard deal, my thought is, I presume that it's likely sitting in an escrow account, just kind of waiting for the moment to just be able to just transfer off and complete the deal once all the legal hurdles have been cleared. In my mind, I surmise that the money is currently untouchable. So that's not like a little piggy bank that Microsoft can just kind of dip into and go, oh shit, we gotta, find a magic source of money and keep all these people. Oh, I know. We'll just dig into the escrow account that's got all the Activision Blizzard money and then just do that. But problem is, if you do that, then, well, the money's gone missing and there's no guarantee that the money would come back. And I think that's partly the reason why the money's in escrow anyway, so the money doesn't move. But again, just I don't know all the intricacies on how things like these mega merger deals work, or if the money is in fact put in escrow, but that would be personally my guess as to what's going on.
I don't think it's really that complicated. It's just that there's certain projects and certain departments in Microsoft that were underperforming, which, were 343 and was HoloLens and all these other things that were not working out, or may not working out, but are not performing, and they just laid people off to save money. Just because they're worth billions of dollars does not mean a business is going to continue doing it. In order to stay solvent and stay in the black, and to be a well-running business, means that you do have to cut ties to things that don't work or are no longer providing that capital. So to me, it's a no-brainer at this point. You do not want these departments to then bleed your capital to a certain point just because, hey, you can afford it right now. That's not how businesses work. You have to notice what is not performing and get rid of it before it actually hurts the capital that you have. Like, if they put more money into 343 and 343 kept mismanaging that money, that would be a big problem and would hurt the capital of the business itself. So just because they are spending the $69 billion to get Activision Blizzard, just because they have that money doesn't also mean that they are free to just keep everyone on the job even though they're underperforming. To me, it's like an apples and oranges thing to really compare to. So
Yeah, and I mean, I generally agree that, that's just the nature of business. Just
right.
You have to lay off departments that are underperforming and not hitting their business metric targets. And maybe it's kind of cold and calculating to say, but it's unfortunately how the business world goes. Just if the numbers aren't being hit, then at that point, you've got the financial folks going, okay, well, what can we do to either A, make sure that the numbers hit, or B, try to start saving money where we can, because we're not able to just, burn money just because we can, because losing money just isn't financially sound.
Yeah.
So I think my direction was more just kind of angled towards people going, okay, well, how can they just still pursue the deal? And my response to that is just more, I think that the money possibly may be sitting in an escrow account, just
right.
waiting for the conditions to be complete.
No, you're absolutely right. That's probably very true that they're keeping it to the side in order to make the purchase at this point. I get a little annoyed with people saying, oh, they're willing to throw these people away, but they're still going to purchase. You can't be that bad if you're No, but here's the best way that I can probably assuage that argument, okay? Let's say you've been looking forward to Perfect Dark. You've been wanting to play Perfect Dark. You can't wait for Perfect Dark. But all the money that was for Perfect Dark started getting siphoned away because 343 Industries was taking that money and putting it into Halo Infinite and doing nothing with it. How would you feel if they then canceled Perfect Dark because that money went to 343? That would be terrible, and you'd be pissed at that. That's kind of what Microsoft is doing at this point. They're taking the underperforming divisions and saying, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out. And then they're taking the ones that can perform or might be able to perform well and giving them the money. It's sound business. It's just a sound business strategy at this point. Again, we talked about how I think 343 had terrible management problems, and that sucks for the people who are there and who lost their job because of how poor management was. But unfortunately, that's just the case at this point, that because management screwed up so bad, everyone is probably going to lose those people lost their jobs. It sucks. I hate that it happened, but unfortunately, that's the business side of that aspect. And what are you going to do at that point? You're going to put more money into something that's not working? No, you're going to take the money out, put it elsewhere to where it can be used efficiently, and then get it running, that division running at a better clip so it can make more money in the end. To me, that makes sense to me on that end. So I guess people are upset that people have lost their jobs due to just negligence from the management, which I understand. And then they're looking at the buyout and going, well, wait a minute, how does this compute? It's like, Microsoft has so much money in the bank, and Microsoft has so many different divisions that they could get rid of those places, those divisions, and still run just fine and make that money. But if you don't do that, they would get less and less money from keeping those divisions on that are bleeding cash. So yeah, that's how I think of it. I just get annoyed when I see that. Oh, how can you still be buying this if you're letting go of people? It's like, easy, it's business. It's just how it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just like when you start looking behind the numbers, you start to understand. And unfortunately, most people don't want to go that far. They don't want to, start looking into just how the sausage is made, because once they start seeing it, either the numbers start to bamboozle them, or they just end up finding out a very uncomfortable truth. I know I was kind of like that when I started getting curious on just how video games were being made, because I'd just be like, okay, well, I want to know, why this game didn't get made. And then, as a tale as old as time goes, just once I saw that they saw something like, so this division wasn't making that much money, so we've got to just curb it, because there's just no way we can sustain this pace, because if we do, the entire company's going to just run out of money. Okay, yeah, we got to save the root of the tree, just chop off all the leaves.
Yeah, essentially, that's it. That's as simple as that. As harsh as that sounds, but that is the simple truth of it. If there is one area in a business that is just siphoning all the money, you get rid of that area. or you make it more efficient in some way. That's what you do. And that often means letting people go or shutting down a division. That's just what it means in the end. And I'll just put it this way. Would you rather them kept those people and then cancel, let's say, Fable or Forza or the new Gears or whatever to keep those games running even though they're not making money? What exactly do you want here? I mean, I get that you don't want people to lose their jobs, but this is unfortunately the nature of business, and there's nothing to do on that end, essentially. Again, the issue was management in this, when it comes to 343 specifically.
Speaking of management, it's gotten interesting over the last 24 hours because a bunch of former 343 studio or 343 Industries employees have started airing out some really dirty laundry.
Yeah.
And just castigating the management, going, it's their incompetency that led us to where we are now. So it is their fault.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a bold thing to do, especially considering how much the gaming industry does talk. So I just thought it was kind of just one hell of a shot across the bow for a bunch of folks to just up and call out and go, yeah, just don't feel sorry for 343. They led things to the way they are currently, and this is management's fault.
Yeah, no, don't feel bad for management. But of course, management is probably either gone with a severance, or they're going to be still there at the end, and they're going to promise to do better. That's usually how it goes, unfortunately. This again, I agree, this is squarely on management. Everything that all the problems that have come up with Halo Infinite smells like bad management at this point. But unfortunately, it just happens that way when it comes to something like this. It's probably better for Microsoft to amputate that wound and let the rest of the body heal than to just keep that going and going and going until it rots the entire core. In a business sense, I think this was the right move. It sucks. I agree with that. I don't see what else you can do other than pump more money into a game that is just floundering right now. I don't think that's a good move on this end. So
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. I think the big one is going to be if 343 can turn around on the multiplayer side of Halo Infinite, because I think that's what a lot of the studios' fortunes and misfortunes will be predicted upon. Just if they can pull Halo Infinite out of the fire and just turn multiplayer into one of the most engaging things that anyone has ever seen, then they may live yet another day to continue to make and update games. But if they can't pull good engagement numbers just back into good standing, then it's not going to be great, and we're probably either going to see A, further layoffs, or B, 343 will be absorbed by some other studio, or just in worst case being put into the status of a maintenance studio and being told, hey, you get to be the maintenance slaves for this other game, so no more working on your own shit, just you guys get to be on maintenance duty for the new Forza Motorsport reboot or something.
Yeah, which will entail also getting more layoffs at that point to become a support studio. I hate that they were let go, but I understand the business side of it. Like that's all I can say about it. I understand clearly as to why they did it, and I kind of agree at this point.
I feel sorry for the predicament that 343 is in, and I wish them the best. But yeah, just with the fact that nobody knows that the Forge system exists on Halo Infinite, and barely anyone kind of dropping in, I don't know what they're going to do to drastically sort of drum up interest. That's really what I'm going to be most curious on. How are they going to drum up interest to get people coming back in droves to get excited about Halo Infinite and the future that it's been sort of alluding itself to?
I think they're going to have at least 2 years to right the ship, and if that doesn't happen, they're shutting it down. I think that's what's going to happen. And then if they do another Halo, they're going to do it on Unreal Engine. But if this doesn't work, I think they put Halo on ice. after that point. So that is my 2 cents on that. We have your 2 cents. What do you think is going to happen to Halo Infinite, and what do you think of the layoffs over at Microsoft? Thank you for listening and watching this video, and if you're on the podcast feed listening, Zero, we're going to have our weekly dividend tomorrow, so I think it's your turn to actually come up with the game that we're playing, so we'll discuss that off air on that. And then Monday, we will talk about what we think what our predictions are going to be for Forspoken and its sales. That's coming out Tuesday, so we have that to look forward to. Zero, anything more you want to add to what's coming up?
The discussion for Forspoken, that's going to be an interesting one, since that is a brand new IP. So we've got no prior sales data, no history. Just we'll have to evaluate the merits of Square Enix's Luminous Studio, and that's literally it.
Yeah, and to see what the word of mouth has been throughout the entire time that it's been announced, which is interesting in itself. But anyway, that is it for this segment of Capital Games. Tune in next time where we have our weekly dividend. I am The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we will talk to you next time. Bye. Thank you for checking out Capital Games, where we cover the business side of the video game industry. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed the video. You can also subscribe to the podcast if you prefer to have it on your podcast feed. And check us out on our socials and email us if you have a question, comment, or suggestion. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll hear from you next time.